Sitting on the park bench, eyeing little girls with bad intent. Hey, Aquila, drying in the cold sun, watching as the pretty Peggy.
As we all know by now, the Super Mario Bros. 2 that myself and everyone else in North America played is a much different Mario 2 than those in Japan played. Thanks to Irate Gamer and his hours and hours of tireless research, we now know that Japan's version was perceived to be too difficult for gamers out west, so the one that we got was a repackaged version of Doki Doki Panic. So let's take a look at what this Famicom version has and see if it really was too difficult. With few exceptions, everything looks and feels the same. The controls are identical, all the songs are back, it's the same 8-world 4-sub-level layout as before, and there are no new enemies, with the exception of a decoy Bowser, if that counts. Other minor changes include subtle alterations to the design of the floors and landscapes in the background, as well as a new power-up, or power-down really. This darker mushroom is apparently poisoned because it'll cause you to shrink or die. The old power-ups, the mushroom, fire flower, and invincibility star, all remain intact. Another change is instead of having the option to play a 2-player alternating mode, you just pick whether you want to play as Mario or Luigi in a single-player mode only. This time though, Mario and Luigi aren't completely identical outside of their appearance. Mario retains all of his attributes from the original game, while Luigi can jump higher but has a harder time putting on the brakes. There are some minor tweaks to the enemies as well. The Hammer Brothers, for example, will sometimes continuously walk towards you as opposed to standing in one spot. And the green piranha plants now have a red variation that move faster. And sometimes you'll get bloopers out on the surface and turtles in the water. Things get kind of weird in this one. Another slight alteration is the bounce you'll get off of smashing enemies. You'll get a little more hang time this time around, and you'll be thankful for it, as there are a lot of instances where you'll need to bounce off a couple flying turtles to get across a long pit. Another way to get across long pits are the newly added windstorms that'll give you a higher jump. Just watch yourself as you come down. Speaking of higher jumps, the springboards return, but this time these green and blue ones show up and give you an even higher jump. Just make sure you monitor where you think you are in the air so you don't land in a pit or something. But how hard is this game? To answer it very simply, it's fucking hard. The beginning of the game isn't too bad, but it's still not that easy. It really doesn't feel like the early stages of a Mario game. As the game goes on, the challenge level naturally continues to increase, but by the time you get to the later portion of the game, you'll feel more frustration than challenge. Remember the 3 castle levels in the first game where you have to take a specific path or the game loops? Well, those are back, but they can get ridiculously cryptic, and they show up a lot more often than the first game, overstaying its welcome for sure. Then there's these fireball streams that seem to block just about any path you could possibly take. I mean, there's a lot of fucked up shit. To ease your pain a little, the beloved warp zones return, but this time they don't give you any options, it's just 1 pipe per warp zone. But there are also more warp zones than the original. In fact, there's 8 total, 1 for each world, including the first one. Now how is there a warp zone to World 1? Guess what? Sometimes they'll warp you backwards. That's kind of fucked up. I mean, you discover a hidden area and they award you by sending you backwards, and one of these shows up in the 8th world. That's enough to piss off a preacher. At least the game shows you some mercy by installing a continue feature, which actually was in the first game, but this time you won't have to know the code. It's straightforward this time. And when you continue, you'll once again start back on the first level of the world you're on, not the exact stage you died off on, but at least it's something. Another thing I like is that there are no recycled levels. Like for example, remember how World 1-2 was the exact same thing as 7-2, only the enemies were faster? Well, there's none of that bullshit in this game. Every stage is completely unique. But the question is this difficulty too difficult for us idiot Americans? And if so, does it ruin the game? Let's take a look. In the first stage of World 1, you'll find a mushroom here under the second block. Then you've got to bump it over from underneath while it's on its way over. If you knock this block, you'll be introduced to the poison mushrooms. I know I'm stating the obvious, but just as a reminder, these are the shrooms that give you a bad trip, so stay away. You can go down this pipe here, which you'll want to access from the right side so you don't bump your head. It'll lead you to some coins and take you to the end of the level, but it doesn't skip much as you are already pretty much close to the end anyway. And you'll also bypass this flower or mushroom, whichever the case may be. The second level's underground, and right off the bat you've got a pretty decent jump to make. You only need a slight head start, so no need to do a double jump. There'll be a mushroom up here which you'll have to pursue momentarily, or if you're Super Mario, it's a flower and you'll have to smash your way up. Right after this piranha plant is a hidden block here, and a hidden vine in this block. Just watch out for the buzzy beetle when you ricochet back down. The vine leads to a warp zone to World 3, but let's continue the level, shall we? Right after that spot is a series of power-ups. 2 1-up mushrooms and 2 regular mushrooms. Now, you're not going to be able to chase down all of them, and even if you could, the screen only allows 1 power-up on the screen at a time. So if you're Super Mario, you could theoretically hit the flower block, smash through the side, get it, and slip back down to get the 1-up mushrooms too. But if you're a regular Mario, you have to make a choice, as your only option is to chase one of them down after leaping across all these platforms. The order of which they appear are 1-up, regular, 1-up, and regular again. After carefully passing these pipes with the plants, you reach the end with a stationary platform followed by ascending platforms. Once you're on the stationary platform, it'll fall as long as you're on it, so quickly jump between the moving platforms, and head for the pipe at the end of the stage. Now at any point in this level where you can reach the ceiling, you have the option of busting through and bypassing most of the level. Just jump over a few gaps here and there, and if you decide to skip even further, use the moving platforms as a boost to get over the ceiling to the warp zone to World 2. Or you can descend the first pipe in the hidden area, and if you survive, you'll be led right back to the earlier portion of the level again. Unless of course you find these hidden blocks here at the end to lead you to yet another warp zone, this time to World 4. How about that shit? A warp zone within a warp zone, totaling 3 warp zones in one level. The third stage is one of these tree levels with a ton of platforms and turtles, but this time the bloopers decide to give their air legs a try. And they can be a real detriment to your attempt to accurately land on one of these fucking seesaws, so either squash them or wait for them to get the hell out of the way. Take your time when making your jumps, and always give the second platform on the seesaw enough height to give you a good safe jump across. The castle stage has a mushroom early, but if you get it in flower form, you'll need a high jump to get to it. It's easier as Luigi, but you may not want to bother if you're going to end up falling into the lava. Then there'll be a series of fireball streams at the top and bottom. Stop in between each and wait for the path to clear before passing. You don't want to rush this shit, or you'll be eating fire for sure. Especially this one that rests between 2 lava pits. Bowser fights exactly the same as he did before, and he's got no weapons or help elsewhere in World 1, so run under or jump over him to get the first mushroom retainer of the game. Or if you have fireballs, blast his ass. In the first stage of World 2, you'll find a Starman here, and you'll definitely want the invincibility to help you get across this line of piranha plants. It's much faster than waiting around for them. Right after that is a couple hidden blocks here that can get you a mushroom, and then you can take a wild ride on the green springboard if you want, although it's just as easy to take the floating platform. And then right here is a hidden vine that leads to Cloudland and the crazy coin bonus. It's a little different from last time, huh? Then you'll find another green springboard. This one's more useful as you'll bypass several of these narrow platforms over a water pit with green paratroopers up your ass and take you basically to the end of the level. The second stage is loaded with piranha plants and Koopa Troopers for basically 95% of the time. It's mostly pretty straightforward. Just wait for the plants if you're jumping on the pipes or crossing over them and squash the turtles. But then here comes a big pain in the ass right here. The jump under the pipe is obviously too long to make, so how do you get across? Well, here's a hidden block, but the pipe is still too high to reach, and if you move across the screen too far to the right, you won't be able to reach the block at all and you have no choice but to commit suicide. So how the hell do I get up there? Well, there's another hidden block, this time over here. Now, why didn't I think of that before? You know why? Because hidden shit was never a necessity in the last game. Hidden shit rewarded you with bonus shit, not this shit. That's one of the issues I have with this game's difficulty being more about frustration than challenge. This isn't a fucking puzzle game, it's a platformer. So once you do get across, it's smooth sailing the rest of the way. The third stage is one of these with the flying fish, which is kinda odd since we weren't in another water stage just now. Now this time there are more overland hazards like paratroopers and floating bloopers, and on top of that the fish come from both sides. It seems to be more frequent, so don't fart around, especially if you're on a low platform because it'll be harder to see the fish coming. There are a lot of narrow platforms, so don't rush it, and always keep your eyes below so you can react accordingly and get to the end. At the beginning of the castle stage, kill this turtle and send the shell across to kill the Goombas, and hug the wall as you fall to safely slide across. Then you've got a pretty long jump to make, but you have to act fast so you don't get the fireball stream in the face. So wait for it to rotate, line yourself up, and get a quick running jump. Then there'll be a line of these fireball streams and 2 paths to choose. I say take the bottom, that way you only have to avoid 1 fire stream at a time as opposed to 2. Just be sure to watch the timing of the flying fireball that pops out, and that you've got some momentum when running across these gaps. Bowser is ahead, and he has a few brick stacks hanging from the ceiling, making it harder to jump over him. So wait for an opportunity to run under him, unless of course you have the fireballs, in which case the strategy will always be to shoot him down, no matter which world you're in.